The alien girl was left alone, until a human medic chose to help her. Lucas Bennett wiped the sweat from his brow as he stepped through the dusty corridors of the outpost. The sun of the distant planet burned low, painting the metal walls in shades of orange and red. It had been a long day checking supplies and tending to minor injuries among the crew. Life on this planet was never easy. The war had left scars on everything, the buildings, the land, and even the people. Yet Lucas kept moving forward, caring for others, as he always did. He heard a faint sound. A soft cry carried on the wind that passed through the broken walls of the ruined settlement. Lucas froze. The outpost was quiet except for the occasional footsteps of soldiers and the hum of machinery. That sound, almost like a whisper, made him stop in his tracks. He followed it cautiously. The corridors led him to a collapsed building, rubble scattered across the floor and pieces of twisted metal sticking out like broken teeth. And then he saw her, a small figure crouched in the shadows, trembling. She was unlike any human. Her skin had a soft blue-gray glow and her eyes were large, dark, and reflective. Her hair shimmered like silver threads under the fading sun. She looked weak, dirty, and scared, but her presence was undeniable. Lucas knelt slowly, keeping his hands visible. "Hey," he said softly.
Oh, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you.
The girl flinched and pressed herself against the wall. Her large eyes watched him with fear. She made no sound. Lucas could tell she was trying to decide if he was a threat. "My name is Lucas," he said gently. "I'm a medic here."
I can help you.
Still, she did not move. He noticed her small body shaking and her chest rising and falling rapidly. She had been through something terrible. Lucas had seen fear before, but this was deep, pure fear. He reached slowly into his bag and pulled out a small packet of nutrient paste. "I know you're hungry," he said, keeping his voice calm. He placed it a short distance away from her. "You don't have to trust me yet. Just eat if you want." The alien girl hesitated, eyes flicking between the packet and Lucas. After a long pause, she crawled toward the food, moving in careful small steps. Lucas stayed still, letting her approach. She took a small piece and tasted it, then another. Her body relaxed slightly. Lucas smiled quietly. "Good! You're safe here." She still did not speak. Lucas noticed she had a small, thin cut on her arm and bruises on her legs. She had been hurt badly. Gently, he opened his medical kit and pulled out a sterile cloth. "This will hurt a little," he warned. She flinched but did not resist when he cleaned the cut. "Are you alone?" he asked softly. No answer. Lucas sighed. He understood. Many had lost everything in this war home, family, friends. He had seen it countless times, but never like this. Never with someone so small, so alone, and so different. He stood and looked around. The building was not safe. If anyone else came, she could be taken or hurt again.
Lucas made a decision. "We're going somewhere safe," he said firmly.
She looked at him but did not move. Gently, he held out his hand. After a moment she hesitated, then slowly placed her small hand in his. It was cool, delicate, and trembling. Walking back through the dusty corridors, Lucas tried to keep her close, but he noticed the soldiers' curious glances. Some whispered, others frowned. They did not trust alien life, especially one from the Xylar species, who had been at war with humans for years. At the medical bay, Lucas closed the door behind him. "You can rest now," he said. He guided her to a small cot and helped her lie down. She curled up, still wary. Lucas examined her injuries carefully. Nothing life-threatening, but she was malnourished and exhausted. "You've been through a lot," he said.
"But I'll help you. You don't have to be alone anymore." She looked up at him then, her dark eyes wide and shining.
There was no fear in them now, just a small glimmer of curiosity. Lucas smiled. It was a start. Over the next hours, Lucas prepared a small meal and sat near her. He talked quietly about simple things, the weather on Earth, the smells of a forest, the taste of chocolate. She listened, but did not speak. Sometimes she tilted her head, as if trying to understand. The outpost commander, a stern woman named Claire Matthews, entered the medical bay. Her sharp eyes scanned the scene.
"Bennett! What's this?" she demanded.
Lucas stood and straightened.
"She was found hiding in the ruins, ma'am. She's injured. I'm treating her." Claire frowned. "An alien?"
Here? You know the rules.
"We can't just let her stay. She could be dangerous."
She could be a spy. Lucas shook his head.
"She's a child, ma'am." "Just a child. She's scared and hurt. She's not dangerous."
Claire studied him for a long moment.
Then she said, "Make sure she stays in your care, but don't let anyone else know."
She turned and left, her footsteps echoing. Lucas exhaled. It was going to be harder than he thought. The others would be curious, maybe suspicious.
But he could not turn her away. He would not. Night came. The outpost was quiet.
Lucas sat beside her cot, keeping watch. The girl finally spoke a word. Small, almost a whisper. "Whew, man." Lucas smiled.
"I'm human. My name is Lucas. What's your name?"
She looked down at her hands and muttered softly, "Leora. Leora," he repeated.
"That's a beautiful name."
She glanced at him, her eyes reflecting the dim light.
A connection was forming, fragile but real. Days passed. Lucas worked tirelessly to nurse her back to health.
He cleaned her wounds, fed her, and taught her simple human words. Slowly she began to mimic him, saying words like food, safe, Lucas. It was slow, but it was progress.
Outside, the war continued. Explosions sometimes shook the planet, distant but terrifying.
Leora flinched at every sound. Lucas held her close, whispering, "It's okay.
I'm here. You're safe now."
One afternoon, Lucas was organizing supplies when Leora suddenly spoke in a clearer voice.
"Help people?"
Lucas looked at her, surprised.
"You want to help others?"
She nodded. Yes. Lucas smiled, a spark of hope lighting in his chest. Even after everything she had been through, she wanted to help. Humans were not the only ones capable of kindness, he realized. But the way she chose to act even after trauma reminded him why humans never gave up. They cared, even when it was dangerous, even when it was hard. For the first time since she arrived, Leora laughed. It was a soft, musical sound. Lucas laughed too. The sound filled the small medical bay, a tiny rebellion against the harshness of the world outside. That night, Lucas watched her sleep. Her breathing was calm, her small chest rising and falling. He thought of all the people he had helped, all the soldiers he had tended to, all the children and adults who had suffered. But Leora,
She was different. She was fragile, yes, but she had a strength he could already sense.
he whispered.
"We'll face this together, Leora. You're not alone anymore."
Outside, the wind carried the faint cries of distant battles. But inside the outpost, a small corner of the universe was safe. Lucas knew it would not last forever.
Danger would come. The war was not over. But for now, he had made a choice, a human choice, and it felt right. Lucas looked at Leora sleeping peacefully. He had no idea what the future held. He only knew that he would not abandon her. He would do what humans always did, fight for those who could not fight for themselves, care for those who were left behind, and choose hope even in the darkest places. And so in the quiet medical bay on a war-torn planet far from Earth, a human medic and a lost alien girl began a story that neither of them could have imagined. Days passed slowly at the outpost, but for Lucas Bennett every day brought small victories. Leora, the alien girl he had rescued, was growing stronger. Her blue-gray skin had begun to glow faintly with health, and the cut on her arm had healed.
She still spoke only a few words, but now she smiled more often, tilting her head when she wanted to understand something. Lucas found himself enjoying the quiet moments with her. In the mornings, he would prepare simple meals and sit on the floor beside her cot, explaining the food. "This is bread," he said one day, holding a small, soft piece. "It's warm, soft, and good to eat." Leora watched him carefully, then mimicked him, holding a small piece in her hands and biting it. She made a soft sound, almost a giggle. Lucas laughed. "You like it?" he asked. She nodded, her eyes wide. It was slow, simple progress, but it filled Lucas with hope. He had seen many injured soldiers recover, but this was different. This was about trust. Leora had been alone for so long that even the smallest kindness mattered. Lucas also noticed that she was curious about human tools and medicine. She would watch him closely when he treated patients at the outpost, tilting her head and pointing at things she did not understand. One day, she reached out and gently touched a thermometer. "Heat?" she asked. "Yes," Lucas said. "It tells me if someone is too hot or too cold. You want to try?" She nodded and took the thermometer carefully. Her fingers were delicate, and she looked up at Lucas for guidance. He smiled and guided her hands. "Good," he said.
See? You're learning fast. Outside the medical bay, life at the outpost carried on. Soldiers trained, engineers repaired walls and machines, and scouts patrolled the outskirts. The war with the Xylar had left the planet in ruins. Entire villages had been destroyed, and survivors had few places to hide. Lucas had grown used to the distant sounds of explosions and alarms, but Leora still flinched at every noise. He would hold her close, whispering, "It's okay, you're safe." One afternoon, while Lucas was gathering supplies, Leora followed him quietly. She had begun to walk more confidently now, stepping carefully over debris and rubble. Lucas did not mind. It was time for her to see the world outside the medical bay. He took her to a small garden inside the outpost. The humans had tried to grow a few plants, though the soil was poor and the sun harsh. Leora looked around with wonder. The green leaves and soft soil were new to her. She knelt down and touched the plants, her fingers brushing over the leaves. "They grow!" she whispered. Lucas smiled. "Yes, they do. Even here, life finds a way." Leora stayed in the garden for a long time, exploring. She smelled the flowers and felt the rough bark of a small tree. Lucas watched her, feeling a quiet pride. She was learning, adapting, and beginning to trust humans. That evening, Lucas prepared dinner in the small kitchen of the medical bay. He made a simple stew of vegetables and meat, something warm and easy to eat. Leora sat at the table, her small hands resting on the edge.
"Eat!" Lucas said, placing a bowl in front of her. She picked it up and tasted it carefully.
A small smile spread across her face. "This good?" she said. "Yes," Lucas replied. "It is! You're eating well, getting stronger every day." For the first time, Leora began to ask questions. "Lucas, why help?" Lucas paused. He had been asked this before, but not by someone so young, so honest. "Because it's right," he said simply. "Everyone deserves help, especially if they're alone or hurt." She looked at him, her large eyes shining. "Right, humans, help!" Lucas nodded. "Yes, we try." Their quiet routine was disrupted one morning by alarms. The outpost sensors had detected movement outside the perimeter. Soldiers rushed to the walls, preparing for potential Xylar patrols. Lucas held Leora's hand, guiding her to a safe corner of the medical bay. She looked up at him, fear in her eyes. "Danger?" she whispered.
Maybe, Lucas said. But don't worry.
"I'll keep you safe." The humans at the outpost quickly organized themselves. Weapons were checked, shields activated, and scouts reported positions. Lucas stayed beside Leora, explaining quietly what was happening. "The soldiers are going outside," he said. "They'll make sure we're safe." Leora listened, nodding. She had begun to understand more about human behavior and trust. She could sense when Lucas was calm, and it helped her feel safe. After the alarm passed without incident, Leora surprised Lucas. She reached for a small medkit and handed it to him.
Help? People?
She asked. Lucas was stunned.
You want to help?
Really? She nodded, her small face serious. Yes, help. Lucas smiled, a warm pride filling him.
Okay, you can help me. He showed her how to clean a small wound on a human volunteer. Her hands were careful, precise, and she followed his instructions closely. Good job, Lucas said. You're learning fast.
Over the next days, Leora began to assist Lucas regularly. She carried bandages, cleaned instruments, and even comforted other patients. The soldiers were surprised at how quickly she adapted. Some were cautious, but most admired her determination. One day, a young soldier named Ethan Parker approached Lucas. "She's amazing," he said quietly.
Never thought an alien could learn so fast?
Lucas nodded.
She's not just learning, she's choosing to care. That's what makes her different.
Leora continued to grow stronger. She learned more human words and even simple phrases like good, safe, and friend. She was beginning to understand humans not just as protectors, but as allies. However, danger was never far. Scouts reported increased Xylar activity near the outpost. Lucas knew that sooner or later they would face another attack, but for now he focused on building Leora's trust and strength.
She needed to be ready, not just to survive, but to help. One evening, after tending to a patient, Lucas took Leora outside.
The stars stretched across the sky, bright and clear in the cold night. She looked up, her eyes wide with wonder.
Stars? Big, she said softly. Yes, Lucas replied. They're far away, but beautiful. They remind us that even in darkness, there's light.
She turned to him, a small smile on her face.
Lucas, light.
Humans, Lucas chuckled. Yes, Leora?
Humans try to be the light for others, even when it's hard.
They stood quietly for a while, listening to the soft hum of the outpost and the distant echoes of the planet. Leora leaned slightly against Lucas, trusting him completely for the first time. The next day, Lucas taught her more advanced medical skills. She watched him with sharp attention, learning how to check a patient's pulse, clean wounds, and even mix simple medicines. Lucas marveled at her intelligence. Despite her trauma, she was eager to help, eager to learn. During a break, Leora sat by the small garden again. She touched the plants, remembering the life they represented.
Life, good, she said simply.
Yes, Lucas replied. Life is good.
That's why we fight to protect it. Leora nodded, her eyes serious. Protect life, humans. Lucas smiled, feeling a deep connection. She had begun to understand the essence of human courage, not through words, but through action and choice. She saw that humans helped others even when it was dangerous, even when it was hard. Their routine was suddenly interrupted by the sound of distant explosions.
Leora froze, and Lucas quickly pulled her to the ground. He whispered, "It's okay."
Don't be afraid, we'll be safe. The outpost prepared for potential danger.
Soldiers armed themselves, and Lucas stayed close to Leora, explaining what to expect. She watched him, absorbing every word, every gesture, learning not just skills but also the courage to face danger.
As the sun set, the explosion stopped. Leora looked at Lucas, her eyes shining with determination. Lucas, help, people, she said firmly. Lucas smiled, feeling a swell of pride. She was no longer just a scared child. She was becoming a part of something bigger.
She was learning to trust, to care, and to choose courage. That night, as she lay down to sleep, Lucas whispered, "Tomorrow we'll face more challenges.
But I know you're ready, and together we can face anything."
Leora closed her eyes, a small smile on her face. For the first time, she did not feel alone. She had Lucas, and she had hope. And in the quiet of the outpost under the distant stars, a human medic and an alien girl prepared for the trials ahead, learning, growing, and finding strength in each other. The morning air at the outpost was thick with tension. Scouts had reported a large Xylar force moving closer to the settlement. Lucas Bennett tightened the straps on his vest and checked his supplies. He had been preparing for this for days, but nothing could fully erase the unease that came with knowing the enemy was near. Leora stood beside him, her small frame wrapped in a simple cloak. She had grown stronger, her body healthier, her eyes sharper. Lucas had taught her how to watch for danger, how to move quietly, and even how to help the wounded. She was no longer just a frightened child. She was learning to become part of the human team. "Lucas?" she asked softly. "Yes, Leora," he replied, kneeling to her level.
Danger! Big?
Lucas looked toward the horizon where smoke and dust swirled in the distance.
Yes, they are coming closer. But we will be ready.
Leora nodded. She did not speak much, but Lucas could feel her determination. She wanted to help, and that made her braver than many soldiers he had known. The outpost commander, Claire Matthews, called a meeting with the senior staff. "We have to prepare defenses," she said firmly.
They are coming in larger numbers than expected. Everyone has a role. Lucas volunteered to stay with the medical team and the civilians, including Leora.
He knew the battlefield would be dangerous, but his priority was keeping her safe. Claire nodded, understanding, though her eyes carried concern.
Make sure she stays with you. No exceptions. As the sun climbed higher, alarms echoed across the outpost.
The Xylar forces had arrived. Lucas held Leora close, guiding her to a secure corner of the med bay.
It's okay, he whispered. Stay here.
"I'm right beside you." The sounds of battle reached them. Explosions, the hum of alien weapons, the shouts of soldiers. Leora's eyes widened, but she did not cry. Instead, she clutched Lucas's hand and whispered, "Help, people." "Yes," Lucas said.
That's right. We help.
"We protect." Suddenly, a young soldier ran into the med bay carrying a wounded comrade. Lucas jumped into action, checking the injuries. Leora watched closely, her large eyes taking in every movement. "You can help me," Lucas said, handing her a clean bandage. "Hold it here, gently." She did as he instructed, her hands careful, precise. Lucas felt a surge of pride. She was not just learning, she was choosing to act, even under danger. The battle outside intensified. Explosions shook the walls and smoke filled the corridors. Lucas and Leora worked side by side, treating the injured as they arrived. Soldiers noticed her skill and determination. Even those who had been skeptical of the alien girl now looked at her with respect. One of the injured whispered, "How can she help so well?" Lucas smiled quietly. "She's learning what humans do best. She sees that helping others is more important than fear." Hours passed. Leora moved swiftly, passing supplies, cleaning wounds, and comforting those who were afraid. Her small presence became a symbol of hope in the chaos. Then an alarm rang differently. The Xylar forces had breached the outer walls. The soldiers were engaged in heavy combat, and Lucas knew they needed a plan to protect the medbay and the civilians. "Leora," he said, kneeling beside her. "I need you to stay close, but I also need you to watch carefully.
If anything moves near us, let me know."
She nodded, eyes wide but determined. Lucas handed her a small scanner, one he had modified so she could detect approaching movement. She held it tightly, understanding its importance. Outside, the battle raged. Lucas could hear the cries of soldiers and a roar of alien machines. Smoke filled the air, and dust coated every surface. But inside the medbay, he and Leora worked calmly, treating wounds and keeping the civilians safe. Suddenly, a strange hum filled the room. Leora tilted her head, recognizing the sound immediately. "Lucas! They—" Coming closer, inside. Lucas grabbed his medkit and moved to the door. He peered out carefully. A small group of Xylar had infiltrated the lower corridors. He had to act fast. "Leora," he said quietly.
Stay here, watch and be ready. No, she said firmly. Help, people!
Lucas hesitated, then nodded. She was ready. She had learned well. Together, they could make a difference. They moved quietly through the lower corridors, using shadows to their advantage. Leora's sharp eyes detected the Xylar soldiers before Lucas could. She pointed, whispering, "Left, 2, behind!" Lucas nodded and took careful aim with his sidearm. They moved swiftly, disabling the intruders without raising alarm. Leora handed him tools and bandages as they worked, learning not just observation but strategy. After neutralizing the threat, they returned to the medbay.
The civilians were unharmed, and Lucas felt a rush of relief. Leora's courage had helped protect them all.
As the day wore on, the outpost continued to hold. Soldiers fought bravely, humans and alien girl alike, proving that teamwork and courage could withstand fear. Leora began to understand more about human behavior, how humans acted even when it was dangerous, how they helped others, how they chose hope. In the evening, Lucas sat with her near the small garden. The soil was trampled, but some plants still survived. Leora touched them gently, her hands careful.
Life strong, she said softly.
Yes, Lucas replied. Even when everything seems destroyed, life is strong.
And humans! We fight to protect it!
Leora looked up at him. Lucas. Humans brave. Lucas smiled, feeling a deep pride.
Yes. And you're learning to be brave too. That night, as the outpost settled into an uneasy quiet, Lucas watched Leora sleep.
She had grown through the day, her courage shining even through exhaustion. He thought of the Xylar forces outside, of the dangers that still lay ahead. But he also thought of Leora's determination, her willingness to help even in the face of fear. Humans were not just strong because of weapons or numbers, he realized. They were strong because they cared, because they chose to act. And now Leora had begun to understand that strength too. The next morning brought more challenges. Scouts reported that Xylar forces were regrouping, preparing for another attack. Lucas and the soldiers began reinforcing the outpost. Leora stayed by his side, helping wherever she could. She carried small supplies, comforted the injured, and learned quickly how to act under pressure. During a break, Lucas knelt beside her. "You've done more than anyone could expect," he said softly.
You've been brave. You've helped others. I'm proud of you.
Leora's eyes shone. Lucas? Proud humans. Yes, he said.
Humans try to be good. And you're
learning that too. That afternoon, a small group of Xylar broke through the outer perimeter again. This time, Lucas and Leora were ready. She helped him set traps, watch corridors, and guide injured civilians to safety. Her small size and sharp senses allowed her to detect dangers that the soldiers might miss. During the skirmish, Leora noticed a wounded Xylar soldier hiding in a corner, trembling and scared. She hesitated, then whispered to Lucas, "Help him." Lucas nodded.
Yes! All life deserves help, even enemies. Together they approached carefully.
Leora's calm presence helped the Xylar soldier trust them. Lucas quickly treated the wounds while Leora offered comfort, speaking softly in her own language. The Xylar soldier's eyes softened, and for a brief moment there was no war, just life being saved. The battle ended with the Xylar forces retreating. The outpost had survived another day, thanks in large part to the courage and quick thinking of a human medic and a small alien girl. As the sun set, Lucas and Leora walked through the damaged garden. Plants had been crushed, but some leaves remained. Leora touched them gently, whispering, "Life strong." Lucas nodded.
Yes. Even in war, life finds a way.
And humans, we fight for it. Leora looked up at him, understanding now more than ever what he meant.
She had learned about courage, care, and choice, and she had chosen to act, to help, to be brave. That night, as they lay resting, Lucas whispered, Tomorrow will bring more challenges.
But I know you're ready. Together, we can face anything.
Leora closed her eyes, a small smile on her face. She was no longer just a scared, lonely alien girl. She was part of something bigger. She had learned from humans that strength was not just in fighting, but in helping, in caring, in choosing hope. And as the stars shone above the war-torn planet, Lucas and Leora prepared for the battles yet to come, stronger together, bound by trust, courage, and the simple but powerful truth that helping others could change everything. The outpost was quiet before the storm. Lucas Bennett stood on the observation platform, looking at the distant horizon. Smoke curled into the sky and the ground trembled slightly with the movement of Xylar forces approaching. The sensors had detected the largest attack yet. He knew this could be the final battle for the outpost. Leora stood beside him, her small hands gripping the railing. She had grown stronger, braver, and more confident over the past days. Her eyes, once full of fear, now held determination. She had learned from Lucas, from the humans around her, that courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it.
Lucas knelt beside her. "Are you ready, Leora?" She nodded firmly.
Yes, help, people. Good, he said. We'll do this together. The soldiers readied their weapons, checked shields, and prepared traps. Engineers reinforced walls, and scouts reported every movement of the Xylar forces. Every human was aware that the coming battle could be the deadliest yet.
Lucas led Leora to a safe corner of the command center. "You'll stay here at first," he said. "Watch the monitors and warn me if anything moves near us." "No," Leora said firmly. "Help? Fight! Safe!" Lucas hesitated, but then realized she was right. She had learned enough to help. He handed her a small scanner and guided her hands. "Careful," he said. "We watch, we warn, we help." Outside, the Xylar forces began their attack. Massive ships hovered above, dropping troops and machines onto the surface. Explosions shook the ground, and the sound of alien weapons filled the air. Soldiers fired back, shields glowed, and the outpost came alive with the chaos of war. Lucas moved quickly through the corridors, treating the wounded as they arrived. Leora followed, scanning the halls and pointing out hidden Xylar soldiers. Her sharp eyes and quick thinking saved lives again and again. At one point, a group of Xylar soldiers broke into the medbay. Lucas blocked their path, firing carefully, but they were too many. Leora stepped forward. She raised her small hands, and Lucas realized she was using something he had never seen before. A faint energy pulsed from her palms, strong enough to push back the Xylar soldiers. Lucas's eyes widened. "Leora, what are you doing? Help! Protect!" she shouted. The energy pulse knocked the intruders back, giving Lucas and the civilians time to escape. Lucas realized that Leora's people had powers humans could only imagine, but she had learned to control them with focus and care. Together they moved through the outpost, clearing hallways and saving more lives. Soldiers began to notice her bravery and skill. Even those who had doubted her now fought beside her with renewed determination. Humans were not just strong because of their weapons. They were strong because they worked together, and now Leora had become part of that strength. The battle outside raged on. Xylar machines smashed against walls, and explosions rocked the planet. Lucas coordinated the defense, guiding soldiers, evacuating civilians, and working with Leora to manage the flow of people and resources. At one point, a massive Xylar mech broke through a sidewall. It was huge, armed with weapons that could destroy everything in seconds. Lucas knew they could not defeat it with human firepower alone. He looked at Leora. "You think you can help?" he asked. She nodded, stepping forward with confidence. "Yes! Protect life!" Together they led a small team to confront the mech. Lucas distracted it with careful movements, firing at weak points, while Leora focused her energy, sending pulses that disrupted the mech's systems. Sparks flew, metal groaned, and slowly, the machine slowed and collapsed. The humans cheered, their morale lifted by the courage of the smallest member of their team. The battle continued for hours. Xylar forces pushed and pulled, but the outpost held. Lucas watched soldiers helping each other, Leora guiding them to injured comrades, and civilians being evacuated to safe zones. Humans were not perfect, but they were resilient. They were creative, brave, and willing to act even when fear surrounded them. As night fell, the remaining Xylar forces retreated. The outpost was battered, but it had survived. Lucas stood on the observation platform, looking at the horizon. Smoke still rose from the battlefield, but the humans had endured. Leora climbed beside him, exhausted but smiling. "Safe, people," she said.
Yes, Lucas replied, we kept them safe. Because we worked together. Humans help each other, even in the worst times.
She looked up at him, eyes bright.
Lucas, brave. Humans, strong.
Lucas smiled.
Yes, humans are strong because they care. They fight not just for themselves, but for others.
And now, you've learned that too. Leora leaned against him, exhausted, but proud. She had been scared when Lucas found her, alone and lost. Now she had chosen courage. She had chosen to help. And through her actions, humans had been reminded of their greatest strength, their compassion, their courage, and their ability to act even in impossible situations. The next morning, the outpost began repairing the damage. Soldiers cleaned walls, engineers rebuilt structures, and medics treated the remaining injuries. Leora helped wherever she could, carrying supplies, tending to minor wounds, and comforting the frightened. Lucas watched her work and felt a deep pride. She had grown from a scared, lonely alien girl into a brave, capable ally. She had learned the value of trust, the power of choice, and the strength of humans who fought not just with weapons, but with heart. A group of soldiers approached, led by Sergeant Daniel Hughes. "Lucas," he said, "she's incredible."
Never thought we'd see an alien help so much, and with such courage.
Lucas nodded. "She's learned from the best. She saw what humans do, and she chose to act the same way. That's what makes her special." Leora listened quietly, a small smile on her face. She understood now. Humans were not perfect, but they were brave, they cared, and they could inspire even someone from a different world to do the same. Later, Lucas took her to the garden. Despite the damage from the battle, a few plants had survived. Leora touched the leaves gently, whispering, "Life. Strong."
Yes, Lucas said. Even in war, life finds a way. And humans, we fight to protect it.
She looked at him, understanding more than ever. Lucas, humans.
Help life. Yes, he said. We do. And you.
You've helped too. The commander, Claire Matthews, approached them, watching Leora with respect. "Lucas, I underestimated her," she said. "She's not just surviving. She's teaching us something."
Courage, care, hope.
Lucas nodded. "Humans are like that. We act even when it's hard."
And now, Leora has learned it too.
Leora smiled, her small face shining with understanding. She had found a home, a place where she was safe, and a human who believed in her. She had learned what it meant to help, to protect, and to choose courage even in fear. As the sun set, Lucas and Leora stood together on the observation platform. The outpost had survived, the people were safe, and a new bond had been formed between humans and an alien girl who had been left alone in a cruel universe. Lucas looked at her and said, "We faced danger, fear, and loss, but we did it together. That's what makes humans strong. That's what makes life worth protecting." Leora nodded, her eyes reflecting the colors of the setting sun. "Lucas, humans, strong, kind." "Yes," he said, smiling. "And you've shown the same." In that moment, the war-torn planet seemed a little brighter. The outpost would rebuild, the people would continue to fight, and Leora would grow into someone who understood the greatest strength of humans, the courage to act, the choice to care, and the hope to continue, no matter how dark the universe might seem. Lucas watched her walk through the garden, helping an injured soldier carry a small plant back to the medbay. She moved with purpose, determination, and confidence. She had learned from humans, and now she was teaching them too. That even in the darkest times, bravery, care, and hope could make all the difference. The stars began to shine above the planet, distant and eternal. Lucas looked up, thinking of Earth, of the humans who had fought and cared across the galaxy, and of the choice he had made to help a small, frightened alien girl.
And in that choice, he realized something important. Humans were not just strong because of weapons, numbers, or technology. They were strong because they chose to help, to protect, and to care.
And through that simple, basic choice, they could change the universe. Leora paused beside him, looking at the stars. "Lucas, we help always?" "Yes," he said, placing a hand on her shoulder.
We help, and we always will. The war was not over. The planet would still face danger.
But for now, in the quiet after the storm, hope had survived, trust had grown. And a human and an alien girl, once lost and alone, had shown the universe what it meant to act with courage, care, and heart. Together they walked back toward the medbay, ready to face whatever came next.
Because humans, Lucas knew, would always fight to help others. And now Leora had learned to do the same.